morning, Pittsburgh. You are listening to the River's Edge Radio. You are listening to River Talk, normally hosted by Brian Crawford, Pittsburgh's moral compass amongst three rivers of chaos. This morning, I am Michael Cohen, your bike guide to a world of freedom amongst three rivers of crushing law and order. We're switching it up a little bit today. I'm doing it's not a dry run, it's the real deal, but we're figuring out what it would look like if I were to host the show one day, if Brian should fall sick or ill or be mowed over by
If I do fall sick and get mauled over by a bicycle, be sure to take me to
I was about to say bicycle.
Be sure to take me to Hahn Funeral Home, the only family-owned funeral home in Millville, and also they specialize in green burials.
I love that you knew I was going to say bicycle. All right, coming up this morning, we've got, you might actually like this, Brian, despite your distaste for bikes. They're looking at putting in a new rails to trail that will not block your traffic. It's going to go, potentially, it's still up in the air. They're looking at putting a bicycle trail / park across what was the Brilliant Branch Bridge, which goes from Aspinwall to East Liberty.
Yeah, I actually love this idea. I saw the story. I'm a huge fan. See, actually, right here along the river trail in Millville going into the north side, there is an old rail bridge that they turned into a pedestrian / bike walkway that crosses over into Hers Island. And I'm a huge fan. It crosses over. There's another one, another old rail on the other side of Hers Island, which could actually take you all the way to the Strip District, but they haven't updated that. Like, I think that would be fantastic to be able to not have to deal with the 40th Street Bridge and just take an entire pedestrian bridge. I love the idea.
Totally,
I think it's fantastic.
I assume that they're modeling this to some degree over, I don't know how many of our listeners have been to Chelsea in New York City, but there was the High Line. And the High Line, they've totally gone and put plans and murals and stuff like that all down this multi-mile strip that runs over the city. So when you don't have room for a park because your city is so dense and terribly filled with New Yorkers, you can actually put a park above the city. My one critique of the Chelsea project was that this was already essentially a park, right? Like you already had homeless people, graffiti writers, people looking to buy and sell drugs, which I know is not a popular thing, but it's gonna happen, and so having a place away from where the rest of us do our stuff is nice. And so in making this a heavily policed, very shiny place, they kind of took, it's not that it wasn't a park and became a park, it's that it was one type of park and became a park for a different type of people, a type of people that already have as much space as I think they need in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that this project is that at all, because Pittsburgh is full of wonderful space. But
Isn't Pittsburgh like incredible for that with their green spaces? That's one thing I do really enjoy about this city is there are trees like everywhere and little like pockets of park which just kind of pop up out of nowhere.
Oh, the north side is my favorite for that.
Well, actually, there's an interesting story behind that.
What you got?
Are you familiar with Allegheny City?
I mean, the words, yes.
Okay, so that actually used to be a different city on the north side. It was called Allegheny City.
I do know about this.
That's why, that's why you have Allegheny City Brewing. So all of those parks, Pittsburgh was known as the Steel City, and they were known as the City of Parks, actually. And they put a lot of money into those parks, like Westview Park, because they wanted to entice people to come to Allegheny City and separate themselves from the city of Pittsburgh.
And Pittsburgh was like, that city's mine now.
Yes.
And got it in a pretty underhanded fashion as well, right?
I believe so.
So they decided that they would take it to a vote, but that they would use a majority vote, and that everyone from Allegheny City, a much smaller city, and Pittsburgh would vote for it evenly. And of course, the votes from Pittsburgh won to annex Allegheny City. That sounds about right?
That sounds about right, and from my understanding, Pittsburgh did such a terrible job with assimilating that city that there's actually now, I believe, like a state law that they have to get like state approved. Like it's like this huge deal. Like they are not allowed to annex other areas in Allegheny County, which is why here in Millville we have all of our own stuff.
And But yeah, it's interesting. I no, the North Side is my favorite. I have friends that live out there, and it looks like they live rurally. Like some of those areas where they've taken out the houses that people weren't living in anymore, seriously look country. Like it's fantastic. But not country in this like you're far from stuff way.
Yeah.
I will say I think Pittsburgh, even with its massive amounts of empty space that it could use for anything, sometimes it's still encroached. Like I used to always bike across the 31st Street Bridge, and there was this huge homeless encampment under it, and it was a well organized encampment. They had all the tents, and they had a grill and a fire, and I don't know if they were some sort of charitable organization or individuals would like come in their van and drop off firewood and stuff like that, and it was great. And then they just maybe 3 months ago they just cleared it out.
They did that they tried to do that here along the Riverfront Trail, right near Millville when you're making your way in. There was this like overpass for 28, and there was a little wall, like a semi-wall, and people had built camps behind that semi-wall. Well, now they put a huge gate in to try to block it off.
Yeah, no,
they just scaled the gate, and they're still back there. So.
Yeah, it's hostile though. You know what I mean? And
the thing is it's like these people who are living there, the vast majority of them are veterans and people like that who are going through post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's not like they're just hoodlums going out to like destroy the town.
Oh no, they're like legit ass homeless people. And I mean,
a lot of them choose to be homeless too. It's not that they're living in like they're having it that hard. Oh, they are having it that hard mentally, but it's not like they're taking advantage of something. They're just They're just living.
Well, it's a criminalized population for no reason. Like, so you have to have a house to be a legal human being now, right? That's crazy. But the thing is, I feel like when they put up the fence, it's like a first move, right? Because there used to be ones over at like the 9th Street Bridge and the 16th Street, and like they have managed to permanently clear those ones out at this point. And I feel like they're just moving.
I don't know if they've done this in Pittsburgh, but I know they've done it in New York and some other places where they'll actually put in armrests on the benches so that way they can't sleep on the benches.
Depends which park you go to in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, no. When they put those in New Haven, we tried to use crowbars and tools to remove them, and then they put in whole new ones where they were really built into the actual frame itself. Coming up, we have got a fantastic interview with Max Emiliano Gonzalez, the graffiti writer known as Gems, who was recently convicted. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back with that. You're listening to The River's Edge. All right, and we are back on the River's Edge, and we have got a guest for you today. We are here with Max Emiliano Gonzalez. Max, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hey there, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So you and I first met at a couple of art shows, and you've been doing a bunch of art shows, right? You and Jerome Charles have been doing a bunch of collaboration art shows lately.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm doing now. Both me and Chu, with myself being Gems, we're making an art career out of ourselves and trying to, I guess, make some more fame out of our infamy.
Yeah, so let's get to this infamy and the fame. Prior to being legitimate artists, if you will, you two were both like notorious graffiti writers in Pittsburgh, huh? You writing under Gems and Jerome writing under Chu. What?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I myself was actually #1 most wanted in Pittsburgh at the time, 2016. Chu was second most wanted. So we were both definitely very active graffiti artists, graffiti writers in the Pittsburgh scene. Yeah, and we've suffered some big legal consequences for those things, and now we're trying to be equally as responsive with our art careers.
Right. So how did y'all get caught?
For myself, I actually had my backpack stolen back when I was an undergrad 3 years ago. Kind of not go too much into detail. It was actually a person who I now closely work with. But when that backpack was stolen, there was a bunch of items in there that could suffice as really good evidence as far as connecting my name to the name Gems. And that backpack was held on to for 4 years until the graffiti task force in Pittsburgh got reinstated. Once it got reinstated, they got handed over, and that was their case. So I wasn't even thinking about any of that. I didn't know what happened to that backpack. It definitely was not in my mind at that time.
Wow. Wait, so someone stole your backpack and then handed it over as evidence? Is that,
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I have no idea what the legalities of that are, but that sounds shady.
Yeah, especially because at the time I was an undergrad student at this university at CMU.
Yeah, some staff received stolen property and knowingly held onto it.
Yeah, without any other staff or faculty members' consent or knowledge of the whole thing. So he personally had a vendetta against graffiti and took it into his own hands and decided to wait for the task force to be reinstated until he handed over that evidence to the task force without my consent or knowledge, without anyone's consent or knowledge.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you get busted. What's that look like? Like you're the number one wanted graffiti writer in the city, and then the task force comes down. What's that look like?
So actually what happened was kind of interesting in the way that the task force went I had a warrant on my old address at my old apartment. So they went to go search and raid my old apartment where one of my old roommates lived. And obviously they didn't find anything because I didn't live there anymore. And right as the task force left, my roommate calls me and he says, "Hey, the graffiti task force is looking for you. They have a warrant for you. They were just here." So instantly on my end, I just popped up, grabbed everything I could find that said Gems on it. I would say probably at least like 20 sketchbooks, tons of stickers, all kinds of stuff, even scraping off old stickers on laptops and speaker systems, and getting rid of any evidence I could in a very frantic mood. But the whole funny part of that is that they never even conducted a search or raid at my current residence where all that stuff was. So I burnt all the evidence in my house pretty much for no reason.
God damn.
Yeah.
That's wild. And so your case is played out at this point in court. What do they got? What'd you finally get handed?
Yeah, so my final sentencing was 1 year house arrest, 3 years probation, 38 grand restitution, and 300 hours community service. And obviously I do not mind the community service. If anything, I kind of wish those sentences were more spread out amongst the community service. Where my initial restitution was actually $120,000, but is able to be dropped down. But still, that pricing there is grossly inaccurate to what the actual costs are for graffiti cleanup.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know when Jerome got caught, they were saying it was $300 per tag to clean up.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, apparently we use the most permanent spray paint in the world.
So let's shift to the art. So how do you then parlay that into an art career? Like what's that look like?
Yeah, so I guess being that me and Chu made it our objectives to make our artwork, our graffiti art, excessively accessible in the way that everyone was forced to see it if you lived in the city. We decided to take that whole notion of grabbing everyone's attention, and instead of just saying, all right, our careers are done here, our names are over, Gems and Chu are dead, we decided, all right, let's take what we built here and just provide it to the same audience, but in a different format. It's not like we're trying to serve a fine art audience now. It's just that we're serving the same audience but in a format that I guess they can more actively participate in. Although the participation kind of is limited to commercial ends of things, but it still is a way for us to engage with those same communities, the same people.
Yeah, I mean, I love buying art from graffiti writers or former graffiti writers because it's a thing that's all over the city, and it's very mysterious, and it kind of feels like you're buying a piece of Pittsburgh almost, where it's like it is this thing that you interact with all the time, and until that person comes up to be able to distribute the stuff, it's like a thing that you can't quite get a hold. I mean, like I've definitely taken like small if a thing had a tag on it that I liked and it was like somehow removable, I've like brought it back like some kind of a bird to its nest or whatever. But like, or like a couple times I've even like really carefully removed a sticker that I liked and like put it on something, and then like brought it back to my house. But yeah, no, it's cool having access to that kind of stuff as a consumer or anyone who decorates their room with anything.
My whole viewpoint on that is when you kind of buy an art piece from some artist who is exclusive to the art world, the only time you can see a reference to that artist is in the art world. Where when you buy a Gems or a Chew piece, after you get that, you might even, for some reason, not even notice Gems or Chew, but once you buy that, you see Gems and Chew everywhere in the city you exist in, and possibly other cities that aren't even Pittsburgh. So it's engaging on a level more than just the art world. It's directly reflective on what we had done in Pittsburgh.
So I know this is like an essay question, but and we only have a couple minutes left, but how do you think graffiti interacts with the city? I know that's like super broad, but I guess like answer that as whatever question you wished I'd asked.
I guess when I think of graffiti interacting with the city, I don't like to keep the mindset of graffiti only being there for the fellow graffiti artists, the fellow graffiti writers, because in actuality, graffiti is going to be in the field of vision of everyone in the city. So when I make it, when I am involved in it, I'm trying to think of how everyone else is going to be involved in it. And I mean, our relationship to graffiti in Pittsburgh is a little bit odd, being that we have some of the harshest sentencing in the whole nation. So to some degree, our citizens have been socially conditioned to demonize graffiti and to understand graffiti as a source of bad intentions, of horrible intentions, of possibly causes of poverty, or just infrastructure being broken down. So there's all these associations with graffiti being things that it's not. And definitely graffiti, because of the task forces here, because of the very heavy sentences that have been handed down, it's become a scapegoat for a lot of people. Just because it's a lot easier to capture a graffiti artist and to sentence him than it is to solve murder, or it is to solve a lead in your drinking water.
Or where's the fentanyl coming from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Max, I have a question, if that's okay.
Please, Brian, chime in.
So I see two sides of this issue. So, I agree. I'm a fan of graffiti artwork, and I think a lot of people don't understand it as an art form. But there is a situation where a lot of graffiti artists do their art on private property, which, as a private property owner, I could see where they would be adverse to that. So what do you think are some solutions that we could come up with to maybe allow people to appreciate the art easier and also protect those artists? Because I think you're right. There is a stereotype that is not always accurate, often very inaccurate, because I've seen graffiti artists in a setting where it was on display for the public, and it was really fascinating to see them go through their craft.
Yeah, I guess if there was more of a level of social engagement in the way that there were legal walls, where actually I'm originally from Chicago, and if you go around Chicago, you'll see a lot of graffiti artists painting on sides of buildings as a commission, where the owner there says, my building's been getting tagged up a lot, and then to ensure that it doesn't continue getting tagged, they'll actually have real graffiti writers from those neighborhoods do full pieces on there. And being that those graffiti writers are well respected, no one's going to go over those things with tags or smaller pieces of graffiti. Where if you try to bring in street artists into those environments, it's more often that those graffiti writers won't respect the things that they're putting up, and they'll go over them.
Mm-hmm.
So there just needs to be a better level of engagements of, I guess, legal walls and murals, and just a better relationship between the graffiti writer, where the graffiti writer can feel secure and doing those types of things. Because at this moment, no graffiti writer who is active would want to do those things, because that would risk them being put in jail, because it would risk their name being more known to the public and their identity being known. So how it sits now, those things can't be done because of the heavy sentencing that exists, and that the chance that you will receive jail time if your identity becomes public.
All right. Thanks so much for being with us, Max. Maybe we'll get to have you on in person sometime, but until then, yeah, thanks so much. That was fantastic.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yep, we'll see you soon.
See ya.
All right. You know what time it is. Time for us to do our civic duty here in the city of Pittsburgh and fight off the fucking Mon Monster. We have got not one, not two, but 3 weird stories every week to keep the Mon Monster at bay. He wants to wreak havoc on our fair city, but we shall not allow. Brian, what's the first story we got up?
So, Michael, are you a fan of condiments?
I love condiments.
What is your favorite condiment? If you had to pick any condiment in the world, one condiment that you could not live without.
Mustard, no two ways about it. Yellow mustard.
Now, what if you were told that you were forbidden to ever use mustard again?
No.
Well, there is a war on condiments in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where there are senior-provided lunches and condiments are forbidden. They do not come with condiments. Only if it comes with the meal. If the meal specifically comes with a condiment, you are allowed to have a condiment. But seniors right now, to this day, seniors like Conway Wood, have been reprimanded for bringing his own condiments in to use on the lunch provided by the city.
What could possibly be the logic behind that?
The mayor feels that the guidelines are common sense, and he wants to adhere to them. So, yes, in New Mexico, there is a war on ketchup, a war on your beloved mustard, a war on pepper.
But it's just vinegar and mustard seed and turmeric, and those are all so good for you.
We have so many big wars that we're fighting in this country of ours. We've got, race wars. We've got wars on drugs, war on graffiti artists, and now in New Mexico we have the war on condiments.
That's wild.
Yes.
All right.
It's sad.
It is sad.
I like pepper. I like to...
Pepper's great.
Yeah. I'm not a salt guy, though.
No, I don't care for salt. Mayonnaise.
However, on French fries, though, I do... Yeah, mayonnaise is great.
I love mayonnaise.
I love when you get, like, an Italian sandwich and you get the mayonnaise and the Italian dressing. Or on a hamburger when you get the ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise, and they're all working together to create a pleasurable experience for your taste buds.
I'm going to be real with you. I don't like ketchup.
You don't like ketchup? Okay.
Full stop, don't like ketchup.
No.
It's sweet.
I'm not...
It's very sweet.
I mean, I eat it, I like it, but I'm not like, oh my god, you don't like ketchup. I'm really not much of a condiment. Oh no, that's not true. I'm a huge condiment person, but I like different sauces. Like,
yeah.
Like whenever even pancakes, for example. Like I like my pancake to swim in a pool of syrup.
Yes, syrup and butter. So
I don't
good.
see butter. I don't use though.
Ah.
Never. I'm not a butter person.
I use unsalted butter because I'm bland. I'm a
Interesting.
bland person.
Maybe I would like that because my tastes are kind of like that. So.
Yeah. In keeping with my usual news of the weird, and at this point, is it even weird for me to be talking about this theme? The Internet of Hackable Things. A new bug has been discovered, a new backdoor. A company called Axis has been called out. There is a backdoor in their software, which is on most smart items, if you will, that allows hackers to easily come in. There's a search engine called Shodan on the internet that's basically like Google for unprotected devices that are attached to the internet that lets you go and poke around. And through this new discovered bug, you can own basically any camera, refrigerator, thermostat, the locks to people's houses, anything that people have been silly enough to affix to the internet. You can basically go routing through and do whatever you want with if you have a fairly rudimentary knowledge of how to operate these things, which I don't. But I do live in fear of people who do. All right, what you got next?
All right, well, as we said, there are all sorts of battles going on in the world. The battle against the monster, the battle against condiments. And there are also culture battles that are going on, political correct battles. And, you know, I've always been, and I know this isn't popular in the scene, any of the scenes, but I've always been a skeptic when it comes to certain levels of political correctness. I think a certain level is good, but not when you start, like, I don't know, rewriting history or stopping people from even speaking. And there's one good example here where a gentleman, Brian Crawford of USA Today, came out with an audacious claim about a movie. Well, he was claiming that they do not have enough minorities in leading roles in a movie called Dunkirk. Are you familiar with Dunkirk? It is a battle that took place in World War II, which basically involved almost no minorities, historically.
Is his argument that it's historically inaccurate, or that it should have simply shoehorned them in?
Basically, they should have shoehorned them in. He basically doesn't understand what actually happened at this battle or who was involved. He just thinks that you need to, have your checklist. And, okay, we got the black guy. All right, we got the gay guy. All right, we got the female. We got this. You got to go run through your checklist and mark off all of the things on the checklist to make sure that you're politically correct. Damn the facts or the history or anything else.
See, I think that's interesting because a lot of stuff I think does get both get swept under the rug and then also is not understood by people who push for this kind of stuff. Like, understand that in Europe at that time, like, minorities, for example, were Jews, or, like, depending on what country you're in, Polish people, or, like, depending on what country you're in, Irish people, right? It's a different demographic breakdown. With that said, you probably have a lot more Arabs that were actually present in that than are featured.
Possibly, yeah.
But
I hate this kind of stuff when you just you just are trying to be politically correct just to be politically correct. Like, yeah, you need to make sure that people are, like, for example, like, there should be more diversity in our sitcoms and things like that. Not rewriting history just to fill out a checklist so you can show everyone how progressive you are. Like, that kind of bullshit pisses me off. Like,
yeah, it's a fine line.
Yeah, well, it's not a fine line. I mean, it's very clear. If there weren't a lot of minorities present at this battle, then you shouldn't just write them in just
Sure. So yeah, I mean,
prove a point.
Specifically for historical fiction and historical nonfiction, I think people get weird about that though. Like a lot of the, like, medieval stuff, where they've got like orcs and trolls and stuff like that, but they're like, but women wouldn't have served in this role, so they're not in that role. Like, historically they didn't. It's like, okay, also historically there weren't actually trolls and orcs. So that's... like, I think you can make a little bend here, and if we're creating a fantasy world. But yeah, no, I mean, with historical fiction, it's a really tough one, and I know.
No, there's definitely historical fiction that have completely omitted things that have actually, like different things in history where there were different groups there, or like all of like the portraits of Jesus as like this Caucasian white guy. What I mean? So there is a lot of the opposite where people do completely rewrite history to fit a specific stereotype that they want to push. But in a situation like this, I mean, the guy's just an idiot. Brian
Fair.
Truitt is an idiot.
I
so.
don't know enough about the situation, but
Yeah.
yes, in the way you described it, it sounds absurd.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the world we live in. It's like we obviously you want to be accepting of all people, but in that effort, you shouldn't just, I don't know, just destroy what actually happened in the world. Just be honest, basically. So I don't think that's a crazy thing to believe.
Awesome. I want to run a quick It's not a correction, but in my amateur hour ass over here, still learning, I totally forgot to give Max an opportunity to plug. He has got a fantastic Instagram that you should follow, at the other Gonz, spelled Gonz. All right. Also, MaximilioGonzalez.com is his artist's webpage. And he just got his store up recently. It's been all over my Facebook. Gems for Sale, GEMS, the number 4 sale.bigcartel.com. And you can get t-shirts, prints, buttons, stickers. I think he's even maybe got hats on there. You should definitely head over there and try to get a piece of Pittsburgh graffiti, Pittsburgh urban, history and art, and pick it up, stick it on your wall, wear it around. I want to thank him again for coming on.
Fantastic.
Are we running to a break before the next thing?
No,
or-
let's just roll on in.
Boom. There is a play coming up that I want to see. It's called Mr. Burns, and it's going on over at the University of Pittsburgh. It is a post-electric play. That's not to say that the play itself is post-electric, but it is set in a world where electricity has ended. And our protagonists, as I understand, are sitting around a campfire and recreating and discussing the pop culture that once was, and how, and then I believe they go on an adventure that is colored by the way that they remember the pop culture of the electric age. And I am fascinated. What do you think we're going to talk about other than where to get food and which of our family have died of dysentery?
Well, hopefully we'll stop talking about emojis.
Fair. But yeah, I mean, like right now it's interesting to me. I was writing short fiction for a while because when I would sit around a campfire with my friends, they would still talk about television.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to create these like stories or fables that we could tell to each other instead of talking about Netflix while sitting around a fire. It failed miserably. It was not interesting.
I wish I had time to watch Netflix. I basically just donate to Netflix once a month.
Well, they appreciate your donation because
Yeah.
people like me just run around with half a dozen other people's passwords. So
Yeah. So, no, this does sound kind of interesting. I personally want no parts of an era without electricity at this point. I don't know. It would be.
I don't think it's fetishizing a world without electricity. I think it's just asking the big question of like,
what would you do?
this is probably going to happen at some point. Maybe not in our lifetimes, but like this party we're having here isn't gonna
Last forever.
Yeah.
Who knows though? If we get, if we actually make the move to renewable energy sources, then, they're renewable, so they'll just continue to renew.
Perhaps. That play is running from August 3rd to August 20th. It's by Anne Washburn. It opened almost 5 years ago at this point, but it's finally coming to Pittsburgh. So folks should head down to the University of Pittsburgh and check that out. I'll be there.
They have an interesting VR display actually at the Carnegie Museum of Art that you
Really?
can go to, and you put the goggles on, and it's artists' interpretation of basically after the Earth. So like I went on one where I was standing on like this piece of planet that was kind of floating in the sky, and there were like birds coming and going, and you could see other pieces of things while you were standing there. But it was really interesting. I would recommend checking that out.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
Definitely gonna head over
cool.
there.
So
Check that out.
great. So do you have anything else? I see you've got an Internet of Things, or is that?
Oh, that was in the weird story.
That's right.
That was in the weird story. We got
So
this
nothing
one
else
left.
there. Very cool.
Are we just banging out this last one? and
Yeah,
then
let's
calling
go for it. And then
All
we'll-
right. This is good news. I don't come at you with a lot of good news. No. Today I am.
You were very positive,
Today
yeah.
I am the harbinger of good news.
You even brought me on board with the bicycle trail. So
there is a new way that people can test their dope stash for fentanyl. I mean, all right, let me preface this. Is there anyone in Pittsburgh at this point who hasn't heard the word fentanyl? It is the synthetic opiate that is being cut into heroin that has killed either somebody that you know or somebody that you know who one of your friends or family knows at this point. I mean, Pittsburgh's a wreck with this stuff. And it's super powerful, and you never know how much of it is in a drug, and so people die from it a lot. Some folks in New York have figured out a new cheap way that people can test their own stash of heroin for fentanyl. And it's actually, so the drug testing industry can test your body for fentanyl, and they do it with the little piss strip, right? And these folks...
I don't know, because I've never dealt with it.
You've never been on drug testing for a job or...
Oh, yeah, like, okay, where you pee into the cup.
Sure.
That's what you're talking about.
Right,
okay,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
So these folks figured out that these same strips, if you just take your drug stash and mix a little bit of it with water, you can pour it on the strip and the fentanyl will show up.
Oh.
So that's fantastic. If you know anyone who is using dope right now, you should send them over. The article is on Vice Tonic. Tonic is their health subsection or whatever, and there's a great article on that. I think this is going to be with us for a while. I was reading another article that said that probably heroin deaths aren't going to peak until 2024.
Wow.
And it has surpassed heart disease and everything else as the leading killer of people under 50.
Maybe if we held doctors and pharmaceutical companies accountable, then maybe we could slow that down.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think that pharmaceutical companies are basically funneling people into addiction at this point.
Which I love, too, the fact that, you know, our governor, who, to his credit, he's really trying to tackle the opioid issue, but guess what one group he's leaving out of the equation?
Which group, Brian?
Doctors and pharmaceutical companies. So no action on those groups, but...
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of people come in, right? They get injured somehow, and then they get put on opioids, Percocet, Vicodin, any of those, and then there's not a program for weaning them off properly. Their prescription just ends, and they're addicted to these things. Sorry, that one started on an upbeat, and now we've gotten super dark. Do you wanna cue the music? We are the River's Edge. We are River Talk.
Well,
I'm
we
Michael
still have
Cohen.
the
That's
why
right.
the world's going to end.
Why is the world going to end, Brian?
So as you said, we were trying to end on a positive note, but no, we've got more misery.
This is not progress, this is distress. Oh, what a mess, what a big bloody mess. This is not a war, this is not a fair fight. This is not a window for you to see the light. This is not a battle, this is not a victory. This is not about the desert or the oil or being free. This is not a revolution when there is no solution. This is impossible to find a conclusion. I can stand here and watch my world die.
Yet I do it every week. Stand by and watch this city fall to chaos. May Pittsburgh's moral compass somehow set this city aright. So, and that song, by the way, is actually called Watch My World Die. It's a great song by Boulevard of the Allies. I would check it out. So, why is the world going to come to an end? I will tell you. So, every day I leave work. I work on the north side, and I come in to Millville from the north side, and of course it's daylight. Everyone's going to work because everybody else in the city lives a normal life. So I'm leaving work. I'm on my way here, and there is, we were talking about homeless people before, and this is kind of on a similar wavelength, but not really. There's a guy, and he's always out there panhandling, begging for money on the side of the road. And he has his corner. And, you know, those people are very territorial. They have their spaces, and they don't like when somebody invades their territory. So he stands there, and his territory is right near the exit when you come off of 275 going into Deutschtown, right at that corner, so he can get people coming into Deutschtown from 28 and also people coming from 275. So he's got kind of like a good, or 279, he's got a good little spot right there There's a red light so we can approach people at their cars. He doesn't usually approach people. He stands by, but he has his little sign up there, and he tries to get people to give him
exactly
cash.
which one you're talking about.
Yes.
There is a rotating cast of people who are there. There is one dude who's very athletic.
Well, he's always there in the very early morning, like 7 a.m., and
Okay.
he's usually the only one there at that time of day. But this guy is always dressed nicer than I am. He's always wearing like very bright, very clean shirts, very clean clothes. He always has a new sign. Like he probably has an entire closet full of different markers and crayons to make his help me signs.
Oh, I hope he does. That'd be so cool.
And the one day he's there wearing the yellow gold out shirt from the Penguin game, which you can only get by going to a game. So this guy's got enough money to have the nicest wardrobe in Pittsburgh. He's got enough money to go to Penguin games, yet he's standing on the damn side of the street begging me for my coins when I just paid like a freaking $700 bill last month. This guy's an asshole. I'm sorry, he's not poor. Don't give him your money.
Oh my God!
If you're gonna give him money, then just start chucking change at him until he gets it through his fucking skull that it's uncool to beg for money when you've got money.
The show.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I respect people who are actually poor and need money. This guy's got nicer clothes than me. He's always got brand new. He's got brand new shoes every week. He's got. I mean, every time he comes out there, he's wearing nice clothes.
You can get shoes for $10 in the strip.
To his credit, he is always polite, which does go a long way. Because I've seen some real asshole beggars as well. But you know what? Get a freaking job. I'm sorry. If you're out there in brand new clothes. Or at least if you say he is poor, at least dress the part. Pretend like you're a beggar. Rub some mud on your shirt. Make yourself look like you're disheveled. At least get into character, for God's sake.
Can I rebuttal? Here's what I think. Let's say that this guy has money and is still panhandling, which
He's probably out there. He's probably one of those Cadillac drivers. You've heard that story, right? Where they're out there, oh, please, sir, can I have some more? And then you go down the street into some dark alley, rev the engine, and pull off in a Mercedes. There's a lot of that going on in this city, and I'm sorry.
I don't think there is.
Yes, there is.
Here's my
Most
take.
poor people are the ones living under the bridge we were talking about and dealing with some sort of disorder and actually need help. A lot of these assholes on the side of the road begging for coin, a lot of those people make more money than you or I.
Here's my take.
And we're the suckers giving it away.
Even if what you're saying is true,
which it is.
Here's my hot take on that. Check this out. There are people who make more than us also who scam us out of our money with billboards convincing us that we are ugly, convincing us that we smell bad, convincing us that we are losers.
Well, a lot of people do smell bad, and they need to read some of those billboards. Trust me, I work with some of them.
And trying to sell us products that we don't need, all right? There are people who sell us drugs. There are people who pimp women. There are people, there are all kinds of ways that people make money. To me, asking me for it point blank is one of the least offensive ways that people make money under capitalism at this point. Like, you could be hustling iPods to people that are made in some godforsaken third world country where people make 10 cents a day. Just ask me for the money and don't hurt the children in some in Bangladesh.
But am I wrong that you should at least dress the part? At least pretend like you're poor.
Why? This dude's not even fronting. He's being honest. He's like, look at me. I got it going on. Do you want to contribute to this? And you can just be like, no, thank you. And he'd probably go, okay. But if you do, it's transparency, right?
Get a job. I mean, the rest of us work.
Yeah, sell trinkets from third world countries, or convince me that I need something that I probably don't. Shame women for not shaving their legs and sell them razors. For God's sake, get a fucking
I will
job.
say about the people who, the smelling thing, though, that is an issue. Deodorant. It's not that expensive. I'm just putting it out there for a lot of people who live in this city of Pittsburgh.
All right.
It's called deodorant. There's a reason why we left Europe. I think deodorant is probably one of those reasons.
All right, let's shut this party down.
I mean, I don't know. One man's opinion.
Sure.
What do you have going on this week?
This week I've got a show in Pottsville that none of you are going to go to, but if you want to, because it's 4 hours away. But if you want to, it's called Live in the Skook. Go check it out. It's on my Facebook page. It's
Michael
on my
Cohen, the guy
At-
from Yingling and Trump, all together.
At Mike Cohen Comedy, Twitter.
All right,
What
do I
you
have?
got, Brian?
What do I have going on? I don't think I have anything. I slept for 16 hours yesterday,
Nice.
so that's about it.
Go back to bed.
You want to wrap things up?
Yeah, let's call it.
Go for it.
Oh, we are the fucking River's Edge, and you're listening to River Talk. Thank you.